Okay, so think about this for a second. How does a language that's been around for literally thousands of years start talking about something like data science? I mean, when you have this incredibly rich oral tradition and it suddenly slams into our modern world of algorithms and variables, well, you can't just look up the answer in some ancient text, right? You actually have to build it from the ground up.
So let's just jump right into a really specific problem. How do you say statistical variable in Amazigh, the language of the indigenous people of North Africa? It's not exactly a phrase you're going to stumble upon in traditional poetry or ancient folklore, is it? And honestly, figuring out the answer to that puzzle, that's at the very heart of what we're going to explore today.
You see, for centuries, the Amazigh language has just thrived. It's been passed down from generation to generation, mostly just through the spoken word. But, and this is a huge deal, it recently gained official status in places like Morocco and Algeria. And that's incredible. But that amazing step forward comes with a brand new challenge. How do you take this ancient language and make it a modern tool for things like education, research, science, and technology?
Okay, so to even start tackling this, linguists have to draw this really crucial line in the sand. They separate language into two big buckets. In the first bucket, you've got our everyday language, the stuff we all use. It's spontaneous, it can be a little messy, it's emotional. But in the other bucket, you have specialized language. Think about how a surgeon or an engineer talks. Their words can't be ambiguous at all. They demand absolute, razor-sharp precision.
And what that means is you can't just invent words randomly. This isn't just making stuff up on the fly, no way. There's actually a formal scientific discipline for this, and it's called terminology. Its entire reason for being is to scientifically build and standardize words for these specialized fields. The big goal here? To create a system where every single concept has one clear, agreed-upon name. That way you get rid of any and all chance for confusion.
And there's actually a blueprint for this whole process, and it comes from something called the Vienna School of Terminology. The best way to think about it is like a set of super strict quality control rules for any new scientific word. So Rule 1, a new term has to be monosemic. That just means one word, one meaning. No ambiguity allowed. Rule 2, it's got to be univocal. One concept gets one term. No confusing synonyms floating around. Third, it has to be systematic. It has to be built logically using the language's own grammar rules. And finally, and this one's huge, it has to be translinguistic. This means that the Amazigh word for hypothesis has to mean the exact same thing to a scientist in Japan or Brazil. So yeah, this isn't just making up words. This is some serious linguistic engineering.
All right, so that's the why. We've got the principles, we've got the rule book, but what about the how? I mean, how does a linguist, a terminologist, actually sit down and forge a brand new word that follows all of those strict rules? Well, they have a very specific toolkit for this, and the whole process is called neology, basically new word creation. So inside this terminologist's toolkit, you'll find three main tools. The first one is called derivation. And this is basically like building new words from a language's existing Lego bricks. The second is composition. That's where you fuse two whole words together. And the third is borrowing, which, believe me, is a little more complex than it sounds. So let's break down exactly how each one of these works.
Okay, first up, derivation. And this method is just incredibly elegant. Here's how it works. You start with an existing Amazigh root word, something like idis, which means side. Then you grab a known prefix like akus, which means for. You just snap them together and boom, you get a brand new, perfectly logical word, akusdis, which means quadrilateral. It's completely transparent and it's built from pure native Amazigh parts.
Method number 2, composition, is just as clever. With this one, you take two whole words and fuse them together to name a new concept. So for example, you take the Amazigh word for skin, which is ilam, and you combine it with the word for belly, adis. Put them together and you get alimdis, the word for the diaphragm. Isn't that cool? The new term literally describes it as the skin of the belly.
And that brings us to our third tool, borrowing. Now you might think this just means taking words from other languages like French or Arabic. And sure, that's part of it. That's external borrowing. But this is where it gets really fascinating. There's also internal borrowing. This is where linguists look to other Amazigh dialects, like Tuareg, which is spoken way out in the Sahara and has held onto a lot of really ancient words. They can find a word there and bring it into the standardized language. So it's not just about looking outside, it's about reinforcing the language from within its own family. Really smart stuff.
And this really gets to the core philosophy of the whole project.
There's a quote from Mohamed Belherzali, the researcher whose work this is all based on, and it really just says it all. He points out that the goal isn't to invent new science, right? Statistical concepts are universal. The real mission is linguistic. It's all about finding the most authentic, the most logical way to express these universal ideas using the building blocks of the Amazigh language itself.
So after all of this careful, systematic work, what was the result? Well, it led to a very real, very tangible breakthrough. A brand new, comprehensive glossary for descriptive statistics, created entirely in the Amazigh language. And right here we can see that whole methodology in action. It's awesome. So to get a word for average, they used derivation. They started with the Amazigh word for middle and created telemust. For hypothesis, they used that cool internal borrowing trick, grabbing the word turda from a Tuareg dialect. And check this one out. For percentage, they used composition to literally say in 100, which gave them digmeti. You see, every single term isn't just a simple translation. It's a logical construction that's deeply rooted in the language itself.
But look, this is about so much more than just a list of words in a glossary, right? This is the big picture. Creating a modern, scientific vocabulary like this has a profound impact that literally ripples through an entire culture, through its education system, and through its place on the world stage.
I mean, the impact here is just immense. Think about it. All of a sudden, students can learn really complex topics in their own native language, and we know that's a proven game changer for understanding things. This kind of work powerfully asserts that Amazigh isn't just some language of the past. No, it's a living, breathing, evolving tool that is perfectly capable of handling any modern subject you throw it at. It's about preserving a unique cultural identity while also giving its speakers a seat at the global scientific table and letting them participate on their own terms.
So when you boil it all down, the story of creating a statistical vocabulary for Amazigh, it isn't just about one language. Not at all. It forces us all to ask a much, much bigger question. In a world that's so dominated by just a handful of languages for science and tech, what does it really take for any language with its own unique culture baked right in to do more than just survive? What does it take for it to truly thrive in the 21st century?